Hi, my name is Kip. In the Loop, where we talk about what we're doing here at the Crisis Loop. Episode 2. It's really a retake of episode 1, or we're going to actually... Hey, Dr. Knife. Wow. Anyway, yeah, we're
Doctor in the house.
going to talk a little bit about just all kinds of different things. One, I'm going to go over kind of the Dead Cells, how things have been going. Go back over the Steam Challenge, just if anybody hasn't heard. Let's actually throw it.
You should probably noise gate yourself a little bit less. I don't know what it sounds like, but just from what your audio looks like.
Oh, yeah, okay. And for anyone out there, if you... this is Lucas, Crisis Luke.
Crisis Luke.
And, yeah. So, I guess we'll have to do this every week for quite a while, or maybe every time, because this is... You never know when people are going to show up and say hello. So this is a quick talk show. We talk about using video games as a way to improve your life and your career, and just go kind of bring together a community of people who want to do more with their entertainment and their time. So we'll just get started with, how was your week? What did you do this week? And did you work on anything, improve anything?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't remember what happened this week. I went to work a lot, as people who aren't retired do. And did I work on improving anything? Yeah, I use a lot of I kind of made myself a new plan at work. It was kind of like what I was doing wasn't working, so now I have to come up with a new plan. And so I, spent a lot of time redevising that, looking at numbers, devising math, all that good stuff to kind of come up with a new plan of action, right? And so I think what I need to do is kind of a next step for myself is identify, if possible, where those skills came from, because it's more than just, I think, math. You have like an end goal in mind. I think it's valuable to look at games from that, that perspective as well, in terms of the fact that there's probably been many cases in the past, and I would have to stop and think for it for a while, many cases in the past of me coming up with like a new plan in games, right? Instead of just doing the same old thing over and over and over, but coming up with a new plan and developing the skill that way. And I would want to sit and stew on that for a while, but I'm pretty sure that, one of the reasons, and I feel like I'm pretty good at that skill of like devising a plan, looking at numbers, changing things on the fly, not really overcorrecting, and kind of sticking to the plan. And I mean, one that comes to my mind right away is like when I actually used to play League of Legends competitively. And you do have to think on the fly and like come up with a new plan and what are we going to do this time, right? With a group of other people. So it's not even on an individual basis, but on a group basis. So I think that's less of the numbers game, but it's still more of the devising a new plan on the fly, or using data points and using reasoning and logic in order to hopefully do better next time. So,
and Dr. Luke asked, what do you do for work? I think that would help a lot for kind of giving context.
Yeah, sure. What do I do for work? I do sales. So a lot of what I do every day is cold calling people, which is not super fun. I mean, sometimes it is, and sometimes genuinely it's a good time, and you just got to come at it from the right mindset. And I have a sales philosophy that I call like the win-win-win philosophy. Everyone knows like a win-win situation, but I think sales at its core should be win-win-win, where there's three parties winning. The customer, first and foremost, that you're selling something to, the business, because they're getting some type of revenue or compensation, and finally, and the one that probably gets left out the most in this scenario is you or actually there's two that get left out, and this is one of them. You as the salesman gets left out as the winner, because it's all about like doing what's best for the business, doing what's best for the customer. The one that actually gets left out most frequently is the customer themselves. They're usually, sometimes, especially in bad sales organizations, they're the loser a lot, because the salesman is only in it for their own gain, only in it make money, and therefore then the company makes money off of them percentage basis. So what I was talking about with like my numbers and how I was working with a plan is that, I do have to call people and I do have numbers that I have to hit on a monthly basis. And so if I'm not hitting them appropriately, I have to always look internally at myself of what am I doing? What can I change? Whether it's strategy, whether it's just numbers, whatever it may be. And I know for a fact, like the numbers part of it might just be because I also am numbers oriented. But I know for a fact there's been many different scenarios throughout my life where I've used, or in video games in general, where I've had to come up with a plan on the fly. And so, I mean, like Dark Souls, right? The game that keeps on giving in terms of this content. Like you throw yourself at a boss 100 times and you're going to keep dying, but the only thing that really changes on each attempt is your skill level or your plan. Those are like the only two things that can change. Either you're going to keep doing the same plan and just being better at it, or, oh, maybe I'm not doing this the right way. Maybe this boss, since has a ton of armor on, maybe I should hit him with magic spells instead. Like stuff like that. So those things allow you to, I think, act on the fly. And yeah, so that's something I did this week, and I think that's how I'm going to relate it back to back to video games, and however backwards way I did that.
No, actually that's okay, because I have I definitely have an idea on how we can bring this back. I guess a quick question for you is just what inspired you to make this change? You said that you can, you're always looking to meet your numbers. You're trying to make sure that everybody's winning. What inspired you to decide that you needed a new plan of action? Are you not going to hit your numbers this quarter or this period? What's happening?
Yeah, sure. So there's two things. One is like you should always be trying to improve constantly, no matter what. That's always a struggle. But yeah, to be frank, it is the fact that like this month I'm not where I'm supposed to be.
Okay.
So, and that always, that's the same thing as like you need failure in order. Well, we don't need failure, but failure helps you grow. So there's two ways to look at that in terms of, oh, I can just fail and then that sucks and I'll do the same next month, or why am I failing? And then change it and attack it. But I think that the second part of that also is should always be striving to be better. And I mean, businesses will make you do that in real life, because if you continuously go over your number, they're going to increase your quota. So it's like you always have to be finding a way to be continuously being better, and I think the same thing goes with game that's designed well will continuously get harder as the game progresses. The last boss shouldn't be the easiest one in the game.
Yeah, and I think that other than constant improvement, we always have this moving goal. There's this moving goalpost that you have in real life where we're always trying to improve, right? We want to either, if we're trying to advance in our careers, we want to get a promotion. In the case of sales, where you can either make commissions, or there's this moving goalpost where as you do better and better, it becomes harder and harder for you to your quota, which will either phase you out, or you'll need to have some sort of way to overcome the challenge by improving your plan or improving your skills, right? Executing better or having a better plan to execute. And the way that I'd like to draw this back is actually how I'm playing right now. I'm playing Dead Cells for the Steam Challenge. And if you guys aren't familiar with the Steam Challenge, check it out, crisisloop.com. And it's the latest post. I was supposed to post something last week and I didn't, but I'm going to. But until then, you can check out just crisisloop.com and check out the Steam Challenge. Basically, just a way for you to, just an opportunity for you to join the community. Hit us up on Discord, hang out a little bit, play some video games, and improve. But I'm playing Dead Cells for the Steam Challenge, and the problem that I've run into is that I've just started getting into the hard mode. I'm about 36 hours into the game, and 32 of those hours are in Lost Cells 1, which is the first difficulty of hard mode. And what's happened to me is that I've run into, I haven't been able to win, right? I've been stuck where I am, and I've identified that I'm at a plateau. And video games are great compared to working in like your career, because it's easy to know when you're failing, right? It's very clear that no one's going to beat around the bush and say you died, maybe, right? You're just dead and you have to start over. And so I've recognized now that I've hit this plateau. And I think that you have something similar that's happened to you in your career, where you're at a place where you're not going to meet your quota, and that means that you're under your expected plateau or your expected output.
Sure.
And so we're going to take this, and now we'll take a look, see this, what needs to happen from here. How do you take the skills that you're learning in a video game and then improve? And what we'll do is we'll watch a quick clip you can that I posted earlier. Let's see. Actually, let's.
Awesome. Yes, that was a good one.
I should have this prepared ahead of time, but
That was a good round. I got 60 points that time. Come on, where's the?
Yeah.
That's how we do it.
Go to my channel. Oh, videos.
There was us.
Yeah. Okay, so here's we're gonna watch a quick 5-minute video, and this is how I recognize that I'm in a plateau. And what we'll do here is we'll set this live scene, and if you guys want to watch on your own, you can also just grab the Twitch video. So I don't know if I'm muting the sound on my side because I don't need to hear myself crying. But yeah, so this was day 4 of Dead Cells, and I'm just making mistakes all over the place. Yeah, lots of fighting, lots of madness, teams. Actually, because I have it muted over here, I suspect it's not playing. Hopefully.
Yeah, now it came up.
Yeah, there you go. And let me post this into chat so people can watch it as well. No, not like this. Oh my god, so dumb.
Stabbed.
Yep, stood on the spikes and then got stabbed. The classic.
Fight is out this minute.
No, this is all of my. This is all of the attempts that I made over the course of the whole stream. So I have I think I had four.
It's like the final boss or something.
Yeah, this is the last boss. It took me a long time just to learn how to get to where I am, but spoilers, I don't win.
How long were you playing to get?
Takes about an hour to get to this point. Playing at the rate that I play at, I take my time and pretty careful, just because there's a couple reasons for that. There's a lot for me to acquire still.
Yeah.
Kind of the mechanic of Dead Cells is that you find stuff and then you can.
Circle, does that kill you if you're in it? Ooh.
Yeah, see, those are good questions. Okay, good questions. I don't know. I'm not really certain.
Yeah, it's
Current time 56 minutes.
Oh yeah.
A while. No, put the repeater. Actually, she's pretty funny in this. She has her color commentary.
Oh really?
Because I'll make a comment like, "Oh, that was dumb." She's like, "Yeah."
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was.
I understand kind of what's going on just from watching, but I feel like there's a lot that.
And when I first started, all of this seemed so chaotic, and now that I've kind of played for a while and I've got some time under my belt, I think they have it's after a timer. Like if you don't kill them after a time, yeah. You got little timers over them. I don't know what a good time is to do. I think that's just
No.
Yeah.
God,
I don't know, man.
yeah. A lot of people actually say like, yeah, you feel like I don't know if I have time.
I'm getting better at dodging.
Yeah.
I'm getting better at dodging. Last run of the night. What do we do?
How many attempts do you think you made? Count?
I think I had like 4 or 5, then it just fell apart. But yeah, we'll come back to it as soon as we'll just. I think it's almost done, and then after the clip, we'll talk a little bit about what I've identified, and then
Oh my god.
tie it all together.
He slowed down his attack again.
I end up a lot of my successful runs use a ranged weapon. This particular run, I had never used the repeating crossbow before. I just picked it up for the first time, and I ended up not liking it very much.
No, you got to the end.
Yeah, I mean it's not that. It's a lot easier to get to the end of the game with ranged weapons, but they're not very effective. Like in particular, the repeating crossbow, what it does is that it will periodically immobilize the enemy, but immobilize
No,
They're-
man, like
changes like the way that they attack.
I think I had time to
Because
get
if you hit them and it immobilizes, and they're in the middle of a swing animation, when the immobilize ends, they just restart. They resume wherever they were
Oh,
in
wherever
the
they were.
animation.
Huh.
So it causes these weird pauses in between their attacks.
dodged too early. Like I see that blue shield that he put.
So you
down,
can't dodge it properly.
and it's just
Right,
yeah,
like
that-
the
just
preparation
look
is really
to see
bad.
what is-
But yeah, I'm looking good there. Just oh,
So defeated.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Kasumi.
is that it? Yep, that was it. That was the last run of the night. We tried. Okay. So anyway, that was that. And what I really wanted to show here, well, other than the fact that I'm dying lots of times and learning, is that I've come to a plateau in my skill, and in time I keep making the same mistakes. I'm dying in the same place. So it's easy for me to say that at this point, I'm as far as I can go without being more deliberate with my practice. It is possible that I continue to play and do things randomly, right? If I just randomly try to do better, it's possible that I succeed. But if I want to do this quickly, or if I'm in a scenario like yours where you have a time box, right? You have a quota or
Yeah.
that you need to. It's not sufficient for me to play until I'm successful, right? I need to part of the Steam challenge, if you participate, is that join and then you have an opportunity to win a game that finishes in December. So December 8th is the end of that. So for me myself, I want to finish the most difficult part of Dead Cells by December 8th. But at my current rate, which is die at the last boss of the first difficulty level, not even I have 5 more to go, right?
Jeez.
I-
That's crazy.
If the rate that I'm playing, I'm not going to. I will never make it, right? I will never. So I'm at a plateau. I need to improve. So I kind of asked you, how do you identify when you're at a plateau, when you want to improve? Important point. An important point when you want to, for anybody who wants to improve, I've identified that you need to improve, or that it's something that you're going. I'd like to come back and just say, talk a little bit about how we do that, how you would do that at your work, but we kind of went over it already, which was, I need to make more money, or I need to make money for the company and make sure that people are winning, right? I have
Right.
my criteria. So we're there, and now that we're there, now that we've identified that we want to improve, want to become better, to ask ourselves how do we improve? This process is the same for basically any skill. The way that we start, identifying what we want to improve, and then what we want to improve. And and identifying what we want to improve is actually a lot more difficult than it might. Because being very, if you're very broad, it's actually hard to devise something to practice or to look at. So if I say I want to beat Dead Cells 5, well,
It's more of a goal.
yeah,
than
like
it
no,
is.
like no kidding, right? Okay, but what are you going to? How do I start to win at Dead Cells? What do I need to do? So I need to narrow it down a bit more. So I need to beat the Hand of the King. Well, how do I beat the Hand of the King? Oh, let's see. If we looked at the clips, we saw that I got hit multiple times from different attacks that were probably very dodgeable. I didn't heal. I didn't do any number of things, right?
Always a ranged weapon. That's where you're
Always
going wrong.
Yeah, maybe I should just be using a melee weapon, right? You can continue to look at these things, right? And dig further and further down until you identify one thing that you can work on. And this kind of chunking down the process, chunking down the problem is not unique to video games or the corporate world. It exists everywhere. So let's go back to you, Lucas, where you're in work right now, right? And you need to make more money. That's the big goal. That's the obvious one that everyone can see.
Right.
Now, if we break that down into a smaller and smaller pieces, what's the smallest piece that you think of that's relevant? Then we'll and using that same process, right? I need to beat the Hand of the King. To beat the Hand of the King, I need to be able to dodge his attacks. To be able to dodge his attacks, I need to make sure that I know the not the triggers. What are the cues, right? I know the cues.
Yeah.
Like, what are the cues?
Tells.
The tells that. What tells me that the Hand of the King is going to use his melee swing? What tells me that he's going to summon the mobs? So, what can you do, and where are you there? Where are you in that same process?
Yeah, that's actually funny because that's kind of how I had to break it down. You know, it's kind of like a reverse engineering, right? The goal is to hit quota, and then what does that mean? So many opportunities. Well, then I need more opportunities to get there. How do I get more opportunities? I need to set more meetings. How do I set more meetings? I need to talk to more people. How do I talk to more people and call more people? How do I call more people? Make sure I have more leads to call. So then that's how you work down the process. And that's as far back as my process goes, is just like more people, more companies, more people. And then if the numbers game portion of that doesn't work, then you start looking at the qualitative stuff of, well, now it looks like I have enough people. Why am I still not getting there? Oh, maybe I'm just not doing a good enough job when I am talking to them. And then it's about, so that's the difference, I think, between like attempts and then like effort, maybe, right? So there's like, you can continuously, in this example of Dead Cells, is like, if you fought him 1,000 times, just by sheer fact of numbers, you would start to pick up patterns at least, or you would get lucky eventually that one of the times he would just get stuck in an AI pattern that was easy. Or there's a way of being very active about it, of not needing to go and be numbers focused, but be very critical and present and focused the entire time, to where you'll notice, oh, that's the tell he uses right before he uses that move, and you can learn that in like first or second fight if your head is like in that space and you're specifically looking for that. And that's more of like deciding what you want to work on, right? Of, oh, I'm in this fight and I know that the move I normally get hit by is this one. Well, I'm like not even going to care about the rest of the fight, and I'm only going to focus on when he does that part to see what I can do against it, kind of thing. Because then you're hyper focusing on what you know you need to improve, and once you like improve on that aspect and then just come back and do a normal run, then you'll have that extra piece puzzle. So I think that's what it comes down to, is identifying all the parts, identifying what the best way to approach it is. Is it a numbers game? Because sometimes maybe it really is. You know, maybe it's just, I know everything he does, it's just hard to execute and I just need to practice and get over and over repetition. Or it's, I don't really understand what's happening in this part, so I'm going to be extra aware to focus on what is actually happening during this and what can I do against it. Two different ways of going about it, and yeah, the same thing applying it to work. I could either, beat my head against a wall and work 12 hours a day and call 5 times as many people, or I could be like, maybe I'm not calling the right people, maybe I'm not saying the right thing. On those, by them as issues.
And what do you think that you're going to work on outside of for your improvement in work right now? It's a volume problem. It's a quality of calls.
Sure. Yeah. It is a couple things that I've identified. One is I'm not talking to the right people. It's hard because I can only control that to a certain extent because the way in which company operates, it's like I can't prospect everyone myself. I'm kind of prospects, so not something I can totally control, right? And so then it comes to the argument of what can you control, what can't you, and that's something not something I can totally control. I can have some control over it. So then the next part of it is, it's partially a volume thing. I was at capacity and my capacity wasn't turning as I needed it to. So now I have to figure out a way to have more turnover in my capacity. So I've solved that issue. And then the second one is just, how I say it better.
Okay, so how did you solve the capacity issue?
So to get super technical, normally when you are out reaching out to someone, you put them through a cadence of some sort. Email them Monday, call them Tuesday, email them Wednesday, call them Thursday. Just an example. That's obviously not it's only 5 days. Attention. But over a probably 20-day period, you have a certain amount of times that you reach out to this person various ways. Previously, it was very manual. It was not automated. And there were a ton of steps in a short amount of time, which meant you were constantly just grinding on the same person, just over and over, call, email, LinkedIn, in the same day, every day. So when you need to reach out to 600 people total a month, it's you wind up doing 200 activities a day that might as well be automated. The way I solved the turnover problem was figuring out what could be changed from being manual process that literally manual sometimes is me just clicking a button, but it's still manual, and turning it into an automated process of I don't really even customize these anyway, so we're just going to have it shoot out automatically. And then also reducing the amount of times I had to actually do manual tasks from about 20 down to 8. So now with those two things together, it's 2 to 3 times as fast for me to actually turn people over, which means instead of putting 200 people through a month, 600. So it's tripling my capacity, and I think that's going to help out a lot too.
Yeah, so if we were to tie that back into what I could do in Dead Cells, this would be analogous to doing faster runs instead of being so safe. Try to get to the hand as quickly as possible without trying to optimize it. So in my runs in Dead Cells, and you can catch me Monday, Tuesday, from 4 p.m. to 12 p.m. just trying to do runs.
4 p.m. to 12 a.m.
12 a.m. Yep. No, I just go actually 18
all the way
hours.
through the next day.
Yeah, it's a little rough, but some people are
a
nuts.
20-hour stream every day.
Since it that leaves me 4 hours for nap time, right? So
yeah,
I just
and
sleep
then you
and
get
then
stream again.
Yeah. I've actually done. It reminds me of the time when I first started working at Dell, and I had the way that my shifts stacked up is I ended up with 36 hours of straight work.
Wow, that doesn't seem ethical.
I had a 2-hour break in between. I took a nap under the desk, and yeah, so I worked 36 hours straight, and I remember receiving an email from my manager at the time, and it said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." That was it. That's the last that I heard of that endeavor. And later, I had a coworker, probably in the same month.
Yeah.
He took a call during his lunch break and received another lunch for it. So he got another hour off free time. And or taking, you know, an extra 5 minutes maybe worth of call into his lunch. Like, okay, well, that seems
Yeah, that's
a
not
little
fair.
imbalanced.
That's not cool.
Yeah, it was kind of a thing, and I wasn't really very happy about that. But anyway,
Were you done working for the week after 36 hours? That's like a full work week.
no, that was just that that was day. I got just to sleep normally, and then
Really?
yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, that was a rough time, rough period in my life, but you know, past that now. Uh, anyhow, catch me streaming. One thing that I'd like to say here, or what I'd like to say is that I can try to do my runs and not optimize, and instead of optimizing for better individual runs, try to run as many times as possible. Goal of just trying to fight the hand of the king as many times as I can, so that way I can try to learn the patterns through rote memorization. The only problem with this for what I want to do right now is simply that it takes a lot of time to get through the regardless of how fast you go. And the less that you prepare beforehand, the less opportunity I'm going to have when I actually do get there. I can make fewer mistakes because I'll have less life based on the mechanics of the game. I'll have found fewer items to give me health. So, this brings me to another methodology for how I can improve. Really, what I need to do here, or what I've identified for myself, is that I need to be. I'm stuck on just one small piece, right? This the last challenge for, and I understand. My understanding is that I need to work on seeing those triggers, seeing those cues, and being able to practice that. And one thing that I could do for myself is simply to improve the qualitative aspect of my runs. But because it takes so long to do that turnaround, instead of playing a whole run, it actually makes a lot of sense for me to do things like watch videos of myself and try to figure out what I'm doing in each individual moment, or just watch the hand of the king. Maybe it's not me that I need to watch, but watching the opponent, right? And this is critical first step where I right now what we're doing is we're triaging kind of our options. What are all the things that I can do to improve, and what's my expected return? I'm going to meet my goals. If I just run as fast as I can or as many times as I can, and I don't do any practice, will I meet my goal? Probably not. But so we look at this from both the business perspective, right, and from video games. We're doing, or okay, you have in work you've already started giving yourself more a larger quantity of opportunities, and so you feel that it's going to be significantly better to do that when compared to quality, or and why is it better to go over quality?
Right. I don't know that it is. There's a couple things there that I wanna touch on. I think one is it goes back to controlling what you can control. And the unfortunate part, but also fortunate part of the role that I'm in is that like I don't really have too much say over the quality. So the thing that I can control is the quantity. And so that's part of it. And then I think the other thing is that sometimes you don't really know which way is the best. Like maybe your quality is good, maybe you just don't have enough. And at some point, in order to improve, you have to take a risk. And especially to improve quickly. You know, it involves risk, right? And so I think that's why I'm coming down at the moment of quantity is going to help me at the moment, because I like when my quality is good when I get the right people, but I don't have any control over getting me a small focus group of good people, and instead I can only ever go outwards just because of the restraints imposed upon me, no matter how artificial they are. And I think that reminds me a lot of game design. Is that a game is developed and programmed and coded, therefore it also has limitations, right? Because you're working within the confines of the game and the mechanics and the rules, and those are all limitations. So then it's about, at that point, knowing what you can control and then coming up with what you think the best option is. And I think a lot of that, when there's games that have more autonomy over all of that, in terms of like RPGs that have stats like dexterity and strength, right? Because then you can choose to level those things up as well. So that's more of like that type of approach rather than just like straight numbers. Then you can decide, do I want to level this up? So there's more there. So I think I had an end point and I've lost it along the way, but I think what I'm trying to say at the end is that in terms of like game design and versus what I have to work with, is you have to work with what you can control. That's what it was. Boom, there we are. You can control what you can control. In like Dead Cells, you can only control to a certain amount what weapons you get. You know, it's there's a lot of random aspects, but in games where there's way more that you can control, like, oh, I know I'm going strength and I know where this super strong sword exists, and then getting those two things, it's like that is a pathway to success and you can control that. And that comes back to planning. So yeah, I think it's just about, I've identified that as a pathway to take, and it's still a risk, but I'm starting there because I know that it's something I can control, and maybe it'll work out worse in the end, but then I'll have those data points behind it and correct myself in another way.
Yeah, definitely one of the things about training or becoming better at something is that you can't see the future, tell that something is going to be the best or the worst, or you can only make an educated guess. And I think that, or anything that's significantly difficult, right, or meaningfully difficult. Tic-tac-toe, for instance, solid game. There's always a best play. It's always something that you can easily identify that will lead to victory. For real life, things get a lot more nebulous. To know that proving quantity is going to result in money, but you're making an educated guess. And this is a good time for me to plug Bets by Annie Duke. Great book about taking a look at what you know, and then making an educated guess. Making sure, the one thing that always comes up is that results aren't necessarily the most important part. They don't. You can have perfect play, or you can do everything perfectly, then end up with poor results. And it's really just about understanding what your inputs are and what variables that you're accounting for. In my case in Dead Cells, I'm accounting for the fact that I can make it to the end boss, and I do that fairly consistently through the day, and I feel that I will succeed if I just focus on Lucas's case, just focusing on he knows that what he can control is not the prospects themselves, but the number of prospects, right? So me understanding that what you're trying to change and towards it, very important. And I think that it's a good lesson there, and that you can learn from reading. That's available. I think I have a section if you ever want to. An Amazon affiliate link. Help support the stream. Talk show. All right. So last thing here is that how making a practice regimen for these things. So we've worked through. We have our goal. We have something that we want to do, and we've kind of narrowed it down to the skills that we'll need to improve. Now, what's the last thing that we need to do is actually create some sort of way to practice that thing. And So, Lucas, in your case, what are you doing? And maybe we can take it away from work.
Right.
We understand that kind of the whole point of bringing in work is that it's applicable. But
Right. Exactly.
it's far more fun to talk about how we've done this in video games and in other places, and then just say that, yeah, actually,
Right.
I think we can. So, what's an
Yeah.
example of something that you can practice, or anything that you're doing right now?
That's a good question. Man, there's a lot of things that come to my head. Even outside of the game world, guitar is something that I've been playing a little bit more. That's something that you have to practice all the time, right? And so the same kind of thing of creating a practice regimen is like being disciplined to practice every day and to get better, and the same kind of thing, have things to work on. Because if I'm just sitting there like messing around with the guitar, I'm not going to get anywhere. Like I might learn how to move my strings around or my fingers around the strings better, but if I ever like want to learn a song or write a song, you have to actually do it. So I think that's a big part of it. So that's one thing. And then once I start getting back to playing Smash Bros, right, I think practice is a huge part of it. Same kind of thing. I mean, they have a training mode, shows you a lot of stuff that you can go frame by frame in, and then you kind of be what do they say, a student of the game. Right? And it's kind of that, it's all about being hyper focused into it. And I think when it comes to work, it's easy to talk about a practice regimen because it basically should be my entire workday will technically be my practice regimen, because it's like I have 8 hours to accomplish this goal. So everything else about that is practicing towards that goal, right? So it's like practice and play all the time. But obviously when you're playing games, you have to be a little bit more mindful of it, because you can just let yourself wander off and do whatever you want kind of thing. And it reminds me of when I used to, like I brought up before, trying to play League of Legends competitively. It's like you kind of have to create a practice regimen. Oh, everyone's going to meet on these nights, and actually get it done. Otherwise you're just farting around by yourself. So it's about being diligent, and it's about actually now you have a plan. Now it's about being accountable and putting it into action.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of players fall into that trap, right? Where video games, being what they are, they're not only addictive, but they're fun, right? It's easy to just have fun, and when you get into those competitive games in particular, everybody has fun by being successful. Very, very few people, I think, are having tons of fun when they're just getting crushed with no options, right? No agency to win. And the result is that if you want to get better, a lot of us identify those things that they can say, like, yeah, I want to be better. I deserve to be here, or I should be here. And they can see the problems that they have, but then when it actually comes time to play the game and fix those problems, they end up just playing the game.
Right.
Let's drop into another matchmaking game in Counter-Strike and not have a goal. Let's play another game of Dead Cells and just run through it without any sort of explicit plan.
Right.
So what I'm going to do this coming stream, check me out here at this Crisis Loop, twitch.tv Crisis Loop. I'm going to have a plan. I'm going to go and I'm going to spend time watching the Hand of the King. I can watch him play and see what he does, or see how he fights, and learn my tells, and then execute on that practice. And I can practice before, right? So streaming being what it is, this is like a performance time, right? This is time for me to show people what I've accomplished, or to, I mean, in this case, I want it to be educational, so you can watch me practice. Maybe I am just going to practice. Practice is not the same as play. It's not me going in there and running through the game as many times as I can and hoping that I win. It's going to be me specifically watching the boss, practicing, coming up with things to train. Like I could watch the boss. So one thing that I see is that he he puts up this blue shield that will actually just block ranged attacks for a short period of time, or blocks all attacks as far as I know, for just a short period of time. And every time I see that, I think that he's attacking, not it just but then I dodge into it, and then I'm on dodge cooldown, and I get hit by the next attack. And so one thing that I will be practicing will be to watch the video and that trigger, see him put up that blue shield, and remove that instinct of mine to dodge. That kind of practice, that explicit practice, is lost on a lot of people that are just out there to have fun. Want to improve, whether that be in our professional lives, our entertainment. You are entertained by dominating people in video games, right? Like you love the PvP and you want to be the best. Well, you got to put in the time and you got to put in the practice to get there. And that practice that you do translates directly into the practice and the things that you can do in life.
One thought I have on that as well is like when it feels like all hope is lost kind of thing is, well, what it reminds me of, I guess, kind of is like the someone broke the, like, I think it was 5-minute mile, and there's a lot of cases in speedrunning of this too. It's like the 18-minute mark seemed impossible. Then as soon as someone got like a 7:59 or 17:59 within like 6 months, it going down to like 15 minutes, because it's like finally the wall was broken through. And so I think that comes back to just like knowing that you're at a wall, but like a wall doesn't stop you. Same thing as it's basically the plateau, right? And it reminds me, and it all ties it back together to a Bruce Lee quote.
Okay.
He's a very smart man. The quote is, "There are no limits, there are only plateaus, but you must not stay there, you must move beyond them." So same kind of thing, like it's not your limit, it's just your plateau. And people might think, the whole world might think, that the plateau stays there for however long, but it's always been broken. Whether it's the fastest mile or like the marathon. Weren't we talking about that?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Marathon one just happened last week.
Eliud Kipchoge or something.
Yeah, it's like all these things that have been like these plateaus are like, no, this is the peak, and people have gone beyond them. Happens a ton in speedrunning, and then like even in the weirdest ways of a weird glitch gets found like 6 years later, or like even longer than that, and suddenly the whole game changes. So it's like there are no limits. And I think that comes down to that, like you can all kind of wrap it up to that. And about practice is like knowing that you don't have limits, being aware of that, then moving forward and being like, okay, I'm just at a plateau. I haven't reached my limit, I've just plateaued.
Yeah, I think that we will probably spend an entire episode talking about being in yourself and believing what's possible.
Like Naruto.
Yeah, and getting past limiting beliefs. There's a whole section on limiting beliefs. Like, I'm going to call out a friend here that I've known him for a good amount of time. He will probably or never watch this, but I'm going to call him out for this. One of the things that comes up a lot is that, real life example, my wife is stays at home, and we don't want to do daycare because the money that make from her work won't pay or will break even with daycare. So there's no reason for the wife to work. Just stay at home because it's not going to make any more money. It'll never amount to anything. Which is fine to believe, but it's a limiting belief, right? You're starting on the premise that you'll never go past that. And he said this to me for probably 12 years, 10 years. But if we look back years ago, right, and we said, if you start daycare now, start some career, are you saying that in 10 years you will never move past making $8 an hour? Possible to stay and make $8 an hour for the rest of your life,
Yeah.
or for the next 10 years. But most people, if you told them, or if you asked them, what are you going to do in 10 years? Are you going to be at your same job for the next 10 years? Most people will say, no, I'll be able to move past that. I'll be able to get further. And that limiting belief that stops you from ever starting something that you need to get past. That's something we will have to spend some time talking about. Spend a good amount of time because it's so important. But for today, it was just about how do we practice? How do I identify that I'm on a plateau? I realize I'm on a plateau because I've died 8 times to the same dude. Guy's just murdering me every day. I've got a quota that I need to meet, and I'm not making it. Consistent. How do I get past this? How do I get past this plateau? So important for improving, right? And to making yourself better. So we're kind of running close to time here, so I want to open it up in case that there's anybody out there that has any questions watching. If not, that's okay. I will sit here and talk to myself and to Lucas. It's weird to have you here. Usually I'm just talking to myself.
Yeah.
But
another human in the room.
wait
I guess
a second. Human.
Okay. I don't consider I'm an ogre. Like, I relate to Shrek on a spiritual level. Oh shit, sorry, I didn't mean to do this.
Man.
I think we should summarize it all up then. I feel like we've had a lot of thoughts here. What's a good summary? I'll try. Let's see. I feel like I keep blowing out the microphone too. I don't mean to. It's just my voice. I have to talk like this in order for it to not happen, which isn't my normal voice, because my normal voice is like this, and I have to lean way back in order for it not to carry. But what I'm trying to say is, for this summary, is that you have to be diligent about you practicing. You have to identify your own issues. And then there's multiple ways in which to solve it, whether that's through a plan change or a skill change, right? Get a better, skilled, or you can change your approach. And when you do change your approach, or even when you're just improving your skill, have to look at what you can control. So I think those are the things. Identify that you're on a plateau. Reverse engineer to figure out what are the steps in order to get to your goal. Figure out which steps in that plan are causing you issues. Can you control them or not? And is it just matter of increasing the skill or changing up the strategy, the plan of attack?
Yeah, that's great. My addition here is that you need to once you've got your plan, you execute on it, right?
There you go.
Actually
Yeah.
make yourself a regimen, something that you're going to do, something that you can practice and do some drills, right? Playing Counter-Strike, hop on an aim map and practice something and measure it. That's a conversation for a whole nother day. Measuring your results. Yeah, and I think that's a great summary. So let's wrap up by plugging ourselves, maybe trying to hold ourselves accountable to a couple other things. I am excited to write about my Dead Cells adventure. I'm going to be just talking about path to progress, calling it the path to pro, and I've actually had it written, something similar written for quite a long time, and I realized that I didn't really have a good for it, that there wasn't a good story, and now I've got this great story where I am in Dead Cells. I've hit a plateau. I'm at the point where I'm in gold, League of Legends gold, and I gotta make it to plat, or I gotta make it to diamond, right? What do I have to do next? I'm stuck. It doesn't matter where you're stuck at. The process is always the same. You have to identify that you're stuck, and I've done it. Now that I've done it, I'm gonna rewrite it, tie it all back, and then post that online. So you should be able to read about this, crisisloop.com, just a blog where we talk about the things that we're talking about right now. Just a way for you to improve and to get better at things. And Lucas will put up some content as well.
I know I should. I was planning on this week and I just didn't do it. It's Dark Souls. I think I mentioned it last week as well. How it started my career, and I think there's just a ton more to write about it in terms of game design and philosophy, and oh man,
yeah, and I think that
ball of wax.
Just gotta start picking at it. Get going, man. Get some Q-tips or your picker, depending on
handle. Right.
And
Handle thing work?
I was gonna say, depending on where you're from and how your culture cleans your ears. Cultures don't. Some are very meticulous about it. Anyway, that ball of wax needs to start going, right? And so, looking forward to doing that. Check us out, crisisloop.com, and getting there that you can read about what we want to do. Building this community of people that are looking to be better. And let's see what else. So we'll be writing about that. Catch me on stream Monday, Tuesday. I stream. I'll be streaming whatever it is that I'm practicing. Right now, I'm practicing Dead Cells. That's 4 p.m. to 12 a.m.
Say midnight. Say midnight.
Don't tell me what to do. Okay, midnight. So 8 hours of just whatever it is I'm going to practice. See me practicing what I preach. See if that relates in any way to what you do. You can always reach out to us. Email us at me, Kip at crisisloop.com, Dellier at crisisloop.com, DELLIAR at crisisloop.com. What else on here? You can see us on Twitter. I tweet about all this nonsense. Not something that I'm very used to. I just learned about not typing in the whole URL for your videos.
Yeah. Don't need that HTTPS.
Yeah.
Just waste time.
Gotta keep practicing though. Anyhow, how's it going? Join us on Discord. See the Discord links on crisisloop.com. What else?
Covered most of it, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's it for this episode. If you
Or 2, whichever you decide to feel like it is.
I named the previous one 0. It's 000 now.
Was it? Okay.
Well, I named it 001 originally, but now I've renamed it to 000 because we got muted in the middle and I didn't upload it. But I've made a new process to just get better about uploading.
Okay.
It, so I'm hoping that
All right.
comes out a little bit smoother.
So the real episode 1 is today.
But I didn't record on my streaming computer this again. So
No, but it'll get uploaded to Twitch though as a broadcast.
right. Well, and so that was the problem. Is that I uploaded it to Twitch and then it got muted in between. So I lost.
Makes sense.
Because of this.
But
we didn't watch any videos this time other than of myself, so I can, because it's a game, we can definitely appeal. But I didn't mean to save it on my computer. Next time, we'll get there. Aggregation of marginal gains and all that. Anything else? Anything else you'd like to say?
I think that's it.
Want to say the closing this time?
Okay, I don't know. Do we have an official closing, or is it just kind of like the always choose to be more than the sum of your parts?
Sorry.
Is that the official closing?
Yeah, I think so.
Keep choosing. That's what
be
it
more
is.
than some of your parts.
Choosing to be more than the sum of your parts. Boom. Out.
All right.
Mic drop.